And someone from marketing walked in like weeks before the game, put it on my desk and changed the name. So which button do I press here?
I think down.
Okay, so that's me. I started this thing. I finished it with Mark Cerny. You guys probably all know that name. There was supposed to be an end game. It even says, keep playing, the homeworld is near. It wasn't. Atari got sued for it by some kid who played for like hours on end and never found it. So this guy, Jess, I get a phone call. How many years ago are we talking now?
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
2002, maybe 19.
And it was a phone call or email, I'm not sure what, email, but it asked what a particular location in New Zealand did, and would I know. So it happens I had the listing, so I did, and he would email me every once in a while, what does this do, what does this do? And then out of the blue, I got a set of ROMs from him that he called Return to Vax that had 4 new levels, had added a new warp code, had changed things. Amazing guy. So he's really the person who started what we're going to talk about. Scott Swayze is an amazing hardware engineer, used to work at Tesla, got smart and left. He's going to talk about, that's a major Havoc game plus. Dave Jury, he did most of the new levels. I can't get through any of them. So there is a game on the floor, you should go try it. Brian was doing level editor with him. How do you say your last name? Roth. So that's the team, and I'm going to hand this over. Did I miss anything? No. So you're going to hear what happened now.
I will try to guide you guys through this in an hour even, so we'll see what happens. Thanks, Owen. We appreciate you. He keeps us on task, keeps us rethinking things, which is awesome.
Just to the game.
Yeah, exactly, which is the original goal. All right, so I'm going to start with last year. Who was here last year, by any chance? All right, a good chunk of you were here last year. Somebody asked me, what's the difference between last year and this year? Because last year they thought the game was done, and last year... What's that? Yeah, exactly, 1 year. Last year the game was not done. We had a concept. We'll get into it a little bit more, but at this point this year, we really hope to have it done this year, but there's a lot to do. We're all doing this in our spare time. And so we're probably, I would say, 90% done, depending on how many more features we add. But we'll see how that goes. As Owen mentioned, and we'll talk about later, there's a game on the floor with the running ROMs, and we'll talk about how everybody can get access to those ROMs after tax and a bunch of other information. So in this last year, we've done a lot of coding, lots of regaming, lots of rescheming on things, and it's been great because we've gone through lots of iterations, and I think learned a lot for sure.
I never realized I had so many bugs in the original code either.
There wasn't, ironically, there weren't. Yeah. I can't stand by this. Yeah, so either way, there weren't a ton though. So I think I only found one solid bug, which wasn't even a game ender. So kudos to you guys, because this is all done in assembly language. No C compiling or anything luxurious like that. So we have macros, that's about it. All right, so let's jump into this. I want to give a couple more shout outs to folks who aren't up here, but maybe in the audience and likely are. John Kulpe, who's here, he's hosting our game on our ROMs and his game. He's been instrumental in helping us last year and this year. Thank you very much. It's great to have your support. We appreciate you guys. Bill Gardner is one of Scott's friends. He's helped us a lot with speech encoding. We'll get into that in a little bit. Luke Dyson and Mark Spaeth have both been involved in this since the early days, talking about hardware and some of the changes that we did in the modifications to the original boards. And we'll talk about that stuff later, but this is up here for you guys to check out afterwards. Actually, hold on, it's heavy. I forgot about this. I'm going to pass these things around too. Just pass these around. Take one there. I'll take this one. Pass these around. We'll talk about it later. These have printouts of the levels, the new levels. One of these will be out by the game later, most likely, and you can look at those and get a preview of Jury's levels, some of the Return to Backs levels that are new, and all the games. The game out there is in demo mode, so you can jump straight to these and play them, etc. But you can scout those out and see sort of what's there.
And feedback is good.
Yes, and we'll talk about feedback at the end, too. All right. Everybody knows about Major Havoc, most likely. I'm not going to go into this. You've played the original. We've talked about the gap with no homeworld, etc. And that's sort of like, this is the flyer that inspired us. And Brian asked me to actually bring a flyer. He's like, you know, I don't have a signed flyer from Owen. And he's like, can you bring some flyers? And I was like, well, let me look. And I was like, I only have one flyer. And it's my old crappy one that has pinholes on it from when it was up on my wall and stuff. And all this stuff. So I was like, I don't got much. So. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we wanted to start with, we're sort of a whole separated group of people here working together on this. Brian and I actually grew up together in Pennsylvania and got involved with Major Havoc when we were 14, seeing it at the arcade and playing it, getting to the difficult levels around 13 and not being able to get very far. But as we were working on this project, it was pretty interesting because we were all drawn to this game for some reason, and we weren't exactly sure why. And we were trying to figure out what was it about Major Havoc for some reason that started this whole thing and commanded our efforts like this. And so, you know, it was interesting for us, and Brian, you can jump in if you want on things, but, you know, it was an interesting game for the time. It was sort of the second wave of arcade games before the crash, where things were starting to get deep, rule set wise.
It had personality.
It had personality with Rex. And then obviously we thought there was a home world. And that was really the linchpin. It really was.
There was supposed to be.
Yeah.
By the way, he said they got difficult at 13. For those of you who know Mark Cerny, he's a really amazing game designer. He likes pro game kind of stuff. And those last 4 waves were all Mark, and I can't get through them either.
Yeah. They were great for the arcade because they really sucked your quarters down, for sure. But, so I don't know, Brian, if you have anything you want to add to that, you know, as far as what got you into Major Havoc specifically as the game, because, you know.
It was the same thing. I mean, it drove us to the point where we were digging through the back of Replay magazine, found one for sale at El Dorado Games.
Yeah, just a circuit board.
Yeah, circuit board, brought that in.
No, Brian has it still.
Yeah, that's mine. It's waiting at home to get put in something. I'm too busy working on this project to get my own running.
Yes, indeed.
So, and at that time, we were helping some guys do some equipment fixing and whatnot, and ended up with a Star Wars game. And we had this thing hanging out the back of a Star Wars cabinet, and we drilled holes in the Star Wars cabinet and put, you know, a Tempest spinner on it, and I think, God, we spent several late nights burning through trying to figure out how far we could, how many times we'd have to loop before we'd get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just kept going. So, Dave, you had a similar situation. What drove you?
Right, a different place. I had a group of friends in the mid-'80s in Massachusetts at an arcade called Ryan's Amusements. And Major Havoc came in, and it stopped everything for us, basically, because it was so different than everything else. We played actually on a Tempest conversion kit, which was a little bit harder. And the same as everybody else, we would get to level 13, and we spent the better part of a year trying to figure out how to get farther in search for the home world, which by the time we got to the random color levels, we figured there wasn't really a home world.
Right, yeah.
You can only warp to 12, too.
Right, you would have to fight your way from 13, you know,
onwards,
and hope and pray you didn't die in those outer space levels. You had a guy or two to try that maze and get through that one last time.
Yeah.
We got so frustrated, we disassembled the boot sequence, figured out where the number of lives per player, and the cost, you know,